Okay, Natalie, can you see it?
Not yet.
Not yet. Want to refresh?
I don't want this.
You won't be able to hear without the headphones, by the way.
Okay, it's live.
It's live? Okay.
It's really high though.
Yeah, I know, because I just wanted to see my face while I'm talking instead of only my torso. And then I'll tilt it down when we're running the dogs. Okay, so what we're going to be working on today with our students is an interior pattern from the doorway. Some of you guys who don't train with me regularly don't know what pattern searches look like.
Just ignore that one. Okay, sorry.
That is great. That's the best thing ever. Fortunately, it's out of frame what happened over there, so you guys will have to imagine what happened on your own. So most of you guys don't know what a pattern search looks like, and so this is what it's going to be. Are you okay, by the way? Yeah, okay, it's good. Just checking. Okay, for you guys, listen up. I'm going to give you the drill. Don't worry, you can just leave that down.
I'm talking to the cat.
Okay. You guys are going to come up to the doorway. There's a step up to the doorway, which adds an extra layer of difficulty. Just like we always do it, there's going to be 5 hides, and then we're going to have a second round to test what we've learned. Okay? Hides are going to start at the threshold. As the dog progresses, we're going to go further and further into the room. Dog will be on the left because the door opens to the right. I don't like sending my dog into the door, especially when it opens in, because what that means is I'm going to have the dog on my right, I send them in, and if the hide's behind the door, then I kind of block my dog from it. Now, when the dog starts coming in the room, I'm going to have to close the door behind them like this in a real awkward way, as opposed to if the dog's on my left, they come around this corner, I turn like this with them, and it's perfect for me to just close the door here and not disturb the dog. Okay? So some of you may have heard me talk about which side of the door, but you might not have understood why, and this is why. Now, of course, we start the dog this way, but you can always let the dog do what they want. That's not the point of that. It just sets your dog up for success. So, dog on the left, you let the dog go in. The great thing about the step up, even though it's unideal for a nose work search, is that it's going to prevent you from coming into the room too early. Okay? Because one of the biggest mistakes people make is at the threshold, they rush in with their dog. But with a step up, it's not going to be so easy. This is a narrow choke of an opening. There's 2 narrow passageways you have to come through, the door threshold and here. So that's another unideal thing. And you'll have to compensate in your handling to make up for that. Okay? Which means as you come up, as your dog's moving around this corner, remember, let's see if any of you know this. When you go around the corner, when do you step into the room?
After they're around the corner?
Yeah, yeah. So my rule of thumb is as soon as the hip has passed that corner, so I only see the tail. When I see the tail, then I can step in, and the way I should step into tight areas will be pressed against this wall, okay, so that I don't disturb the dog. And so I'm going to end up right here, and then I would close the door or allow the volunteer to close the door, and then I would be stepping out to here. And this is where I really want to be in order to work into this corner. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, 5 hides. I'm going to lower the camera so they can see the door threshold better. Sorry for the lens flare. Okay, that should be fine. Okay, Pat, you got 2 dogs?
Yeah.
Why don't you go first? Need help? Okay.
Oh, why not? Down is easy. Mine are fastened to the wall.
Ours are normally. But I've never, tried to make it weight bearing.
Yeah, I didn't even think I was leaning on it.
Okay, cool.
So there are 5 somewhere from the door jamb.
No, so there are going to be one at a time,
Oh, okay.
5 individual hides.
Okay. Let's say she hasn't done anything. Oh, so she does check every doorway.
That's good.
because you're gonna do all 5.
Yeah, so you get your dog ready when I set the 3rd hide.
Okay.
That's usually the best time.
Okay, I got it. You do 5 and then go back.
Yeah. So it's your choice whether to do this search on or off leash. I would recommend with a more novice dog, do it off leash. And yeah, because adding leash handling makes it more difficult. It doesn't make it easier. You want to put her away? Okay, so remember, once you get the dog, don't let the dog be so close to the doorway while you're setting up. So, see how you're rearranging your leash? You should be doing that like 10 feet away.
Ready? Search.
Let him go in and you don't move. Just let him go in.
Yes, good
Good.
boy.
Okay, so let me critique some of the things you did wrong after you get him off the hide. Okay, you didn't start him on your left. You started him in front of you. You were back here, and you let him go in first. Now that in and of itself is not the worst thing in the world, but when you're working on threshold hide, you want to work a threshold hide, which means I want to start right here, up against this step, because that means the hide is literally 2 inches from his face, and that's something we rarely set for dogs. We rarely set that hide so close. So I'm going to reset that hide higher up, especially since he's a more advanced dog, and I want you short leash, as short as you can make it. Yeah, so which means you're probably holding his collar.
Okay.
You come to here, you say search, and you don't move.
Search.
Much better. Much better. And you can see, it's like, it's not doing the dog any favors, right? It didn't make him find it easier. He found it easier because the last hide was also in the same area, but that didn't even really help him. I'd like to see him hit it right from the beginning, right? Okay. So now, we're going to move to the first area, which is going to be just around this corner, which after the dog checks the threshold well, the next thing they're likely to do is come into the center of the room. And I want the dog to come around this corner tightly. So you should still not be entering the room after he starts searching.
Search.
There it is. Nice. Good. That's beautiful. Now it's starting to look like a pattern.
Good job.
Okay, so now we're going to go further around this corner, and we're going to see what the dog does at this point. This is the real test. If he runs into the room, it means we need to refine this corner a lot more. Set 4, 5, 6 more hides at the threshold and just around that corner. Remember, as you lose sight of his tail, that's when you can step in. And you step back up against that wall. That's it. See how that opens up that corner instead of pushing him off the corner? Good.
Boy.
So he did what typically dogs are going to do, which is burst into the room. And that would be okay if it were, if the dog were following odor. But the dog's not following odor. The dog's just doing what they've been trained to do, which is to burst into the room. Okay? So the last hide we're going to set, guess what? Right back at that threshold. And this time we're going to set it mid-height and a little bit further, even closer to the threshold. Okay, whenever you're ready, last one.
Search. Yeah.
That's it. That's what I want to see.
Good boy, Lou. Good job.
What? Yeah. That's it, right?
Yep, that's it. Good job. Now, obviously, when you're training on your own, you can do more hides than that. I wouldn't do more than, I don't know, 15 would be a stretch because the dog will start to lose some energy. And I don't want the dog to get super slow. I just want them to get precise. I mentioned earlier how a more novice dog I would let off leash, and that's counterintuitive to people. For one, leash handling is harder. It makes the dog worse, and it means it's one more thing you're going to have to think about. And two, you're going to prevent them from learning what they need to learn by having them on leash. They need to have the learning experience to explore the room at their own pace, and that's how they learn to do a pattern. We don't show them the pattern, they do it themselves. Okay, let's see how you do. I know in the past, patterning has been a little hard for Noel. You stay there. You stay there. For the first hide, you stay at the door. That's okay. That's okay. Just let out that line. We're going to make sure you have a long enough long line. Good. And on a room like this, if I had this room in the trial, I might not even come in this room. It's not that big, right? And you step into this room, that adds another variable for the dog.
Good girl.
It's so instinctual for a dog to blast through the doorway. If you just think about every experience your dog has ever had through a doorway, they're running out it, they're running in it. How often do you have your dog in daily life pay attention to the door threshold, right? So we're going to do another threshold. It's going to be lower this time. Whenever you're ready. Although I think Patty will just get her second one. But now, so that was a much better entry. Still not perfect, right? But much better entry, much more thoughtful. And you get to practice your leash handling, drawing it in and letting it out. This is really good. Good. You're a little slow on your draw in. Okay? Yeah, so and it's tangled now, right? She stepped over it? Yeah, that's fine, but don't pull on her. Yeah. And that's partially because I distracted you. When your dog's on odor, your one focus should be praising and rewarding. And when I distract you by commenting on your leash handling, you need to put that, just be, yay, good dog, praising, and just kind of osmose the information, okay? Okay, so we're going to continue in this threshold area until the dog stops blasting through it. So it's up higher, a little bit further from the threshold.
Sure you don't want this back up?
I will put it up, but later.
The poppy, she's all sweet.
There's not that much room back there for her to explore.
That's true.
Plus, exploration and curiosity is an important part of nose work. So don't be so worried about that. That's actually a useful skill.
Well, she's got that one.
Now, we've changed her threshold behavior, obviously.
Yeah, she's checking that.
I'll tell you, these are some of the most difficult hides we set for the dogs, the ones that are within 3 feet of the handler. And I want you to make a point of it when she finds it to really praise her. Okay?
Good girl. That's so good. Good puppy. Good girl.
That's so funny that she went to the black spot on the wood. Okay, much better. Now, the praise is more important than the food. Okay? And you saw, right? A lot more engagement when you really praise her. I think that's going to be important for you guys. Okay, so we're going just around the corner now. Huge change in behavior. This is beautiful. This is starting to look like a pattern search. And she's not putting any tension on the leash, just so you guys know. This is all the dog's natural, what the dog has learned over the last 3 hides. Yes, good dog.
Good.
Very nice.
Good puppy.
Good girl.
Good puppy. Good Noelle. Good
Yeah, the
job.
praise is super
Good
important.
girl. Good girl.
I'm going to start having people on Patreon yell at you if you don't praise right. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further down. Instead of returning to the threshold, because we like beat that point over the head, normally I'd like to end on a threshold, but for her, she had 3 hides of threshold already. We're going to move her into the room a little further. And the next time we will go back to the threshold, right?
And I'm still not stepping in.
When you lose sight of her tail, you can.
Ready? Ready? Search.
But I mean, just look how nice and methodical this threshold is, right? You should never miss a threshold in trial with a dog like that. If you miss it, you go, oh, I must have pushed her into the room. I love she's checking both sides and everything. Now step into that corner. That's perfect.
Good girl.
Beautiful.
Good. Good baby. Good puppy. Good girl. Good job. Yeah, good girl. Oh, good girl. Okay.
Now, well, look, we're getting exactly what we've been trying to build, huh? Just by adding praise. Isn't that pretty cool?
Yes.
Okay. So for you guys watching, this is an important hide placement. If your dog has done a lot of inaccessible hides, you'll note that dogs will go up and down these seams and be totally mind blown when the hide is here. Because they'll go around and around and around, check all the seams, and they won't even guess that it's in the middle. Okay, good job. Yep, that was it. I gave all my students, tequila this morning. That's why they're stumbling about. Yeah, come to the class, get free tequila, right? No.
There you go.
Good. Now this is a young puppy. Her name's Kiwi. We started her very young on this, and you can see that she is a very excited, fast dog, and she doesn't miss the threshold, right? That's if you start this correctly from a young age. Of course, you have to understand you don't move to this type of training until the drive is already built. So you wouldn't do this with a dog that lacks drive. That's it. Beautiful.
Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, good girl. Good job. Good girl.
Okay, you can go get your dog ready. Hang on, Barbara's coming out. Okay, whenever you're ready. Good job. Now you can see she moved in the pattern, right? All the way around the room, but she missed the hide, right? So the stage we're at with her is doing the pattern, but now making the hides a little bit harder through the pattern so the dog doesn't just rush it. She's doing the gesture, but she's not actually being useful about it. Now back down to low. Okay, whenever you're ready. Move to your corner. That was too slow, and you have too much tension on the line. The tension pulled her off her pattern.
Oh, okay.
Remember, your goal with the line is to make it feel off leash.
Yes,
good dog. The leash is only for safety. So the only thing, other than protecting your dog from running off, the only thing the leash does is get in the dog's way. Okay, last one. We're going to do an elevated threshold. Try to trick her whenever you're ready. And remember, let her blast into the room and make sure that leash never gets tight. When she goes around the corner, you move to your corner. Move to your corner. That's it. Beautiful. And that was actually a really nice pattern, except for the fact that she's not detailing yet. She's just doing the motions. Good job. Moving out of her way. Beautiful.
Yes,
good.
girl.
So her homework would be, I don't know how often she's doing pattern searches on her own, but her homework would be to start upping the ratio of high hides on her pattern searches. High hides meaning about no higher than the counter, to about 3 out of the 5. 3 out of 5. Hang on, give me a second.
Not a problem. Oh, funny. Oh.
We're not going to start with an elevated threshold for her. Hang on. Hi. Okay, so you're going to let her off leash. We're going to watch the dog learn this pattern organically without any help from the handler.
Search.
The only thing you're going to do is
Good
girl.
Good girl.
Try to reward her right at the source. Good.
She says, I'm still looking. There you go.
Good. Now take her collar. Good. Good girl. That was beautiful. Okay. The only thing your job is now we're moving into the room is you're not gonna don't let her out of the room. Okay.
Well, yeah.
Okay? Now for her, we're just building the pattern from the beginning. We're not gonna try to send any tricky hides her way. They're all gonna be her nose level, and she's just going to be allowed to work at her own pace. Even though obviously she can do an elevated threshold if she wants.
Look at me. Search.
Just don't say anything, just wait. She has to do it on her own. Wait, just wait, just wait. I'll tell you when she finds it, and you just wait. The dog should be able to do this without you before they do it with you. She knows there's something in that area, but she didn't quite commit to it. Another thing I think people make too much fuss of is hiding the hides. You can see being right in the open where you can see it doesn't make any difference. Now the other thing you could do is pair these hides, which when I work my dogs, I definitely pair them. I think it makes them a little bit sharper, a little bit more drivey, but it's not, you can do it without pairing or with pairing. It just depends on, I guess, your time frame and what your goals are.
She hasn't worked for 2 months, so.
I mean, she's doing great.
Search.
Don't say anything. Just wait. She'll figure it out. Patience is key. Yay, good dog. This is the way it normally looks when you first start patterns. What you saw in the first couple of dogs are dogs who have done this multiple times. So this isn't something new to them. This is really new to Poppy. We haven't really done too many pattern searches with Poppy. Okay, make sure dog's on your left before you begin. That's good. And wait, there you go, good. Relax. I'll tell you when she finds it. She's acting like she thinks it's inside one of the drawers, which I don't know if you've been doing inaccessible hides or anything like that.
Only
But
with you, and that's been a while. Go search.
no, don't say anything. Just let her work. She'll figure it out on her own. Don't worry too much if she steps out.
Hey, you.
Don't worry too much, because she's actually still searching. She's just searching the outside of the threshold. Reward. Good
good
dog.
girl.
Very
Good
nice.
girl. Good girl. Right here.
So we're building like a connect the dots pattern in the dog's head where, oh, I'm going to check here, then I'm going to check here, then I'm going to check here. And dogs will learn this really easily. They're already learning this whether you like it or not. And it's just a matter of have you set up the connect the dots in the way you want, or have you set the connect the dots in a very chaotic way. Okay, now this time when she comes around this corner, you're going to step back into that corner.
Ready? Go search.
Okay, step into that corner now. And face, yep, that way. Perfect. Very good. And you just stand there and do nothing. There it is. Good.
Girl.
Now she really seems to have this idea of seams.
Yes.
So I would say for a little while you don't have to do any inaccessible hides. Okay, last one, we're going to do a threshold. Okay, because whenever I do pattern searches, especially with beginning dogs, I like to begin and end on the threshold. Whenever you're ready.
Sure. Yes. Girl.
And you see it curbs their desire to just kind of blast through. Yeah.
Good girl.
And that's what the thing, they always remember the last hide. So ending on that hide where they blasted into the room and then went, wait a second, I went too fast. That's a great thing to leave the dog thinking about when they're resting in their crate. Okay. So after you put her away, just go ahead and come on back in.
Okay.
And we're going to discuss what we're going to do with each dog.
I thought she'd have to help. I didn't think she leaned out. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah, we could have had the whole ambulance coming, right? Yeah.
Well, I just realized how short that little next step is for her to have been toppling even farther.
Yeah. You don't have to talk sign language, Natalie. It's still going, by the way. Are you still monitoring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
With what you saw with Noelle, practicing this at home, am I better to do it on leash or off? Like
Off
what will
leash.
build? Okay. Off
Yeah. So.
For all of them?
No, not for all of them. Okay, so this is how you know whether or not to do it on or off leash. If you're trying to build the dog's pattern, you should do it off leash. If you have a good pattern and you're trying to build your ability to handle that pattern, that's when you do it on leash. Okay, and you're supposed to learn how to make sure it never gets tight, to never let it get tangled, to recover the leash when you're rewarding. Okay. So that's the things you're practicing. And if you're mostly focused on letting the dog learn the pattern and you're thinking about those things, those two things don't go well, right? In the horse world, they say green and green makes black and blue, right?
Yes.
I think that's true for nose work, except you don't end up bruised, except in this class, apparently.
That's true.
So for each dog, I want to do something different next. For Louis, what do you think we should be doing?
I think he needs more right at the door because he still always blows through.
Mm-hmm. We're going to do a threshold for Louis. Okay? That's exactly right, and we're probably going to mention.
And Louis on or off?
You could do them off. Or if you want to work on your handling, you could do it on leash. Is it back?
Not sure.
Yeah. The live stream kept going off. The one we were watching the other day kept going off, on and off a lot. So that's just normal with internet connectivity issues. So if you want to work on your handling, then you could do it on leash. But again, we're going to do a threshold hide with him, so we don't necessarily need to. Now what we could do is do two hides, threshold hide and a corner hide, way back in this corner. And that way you could let him work the threshold, reward him, pick up the hide, and then continue to practice your handling around the corner.
Okay.
That might be better for her, Kiwi and Louie.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Noelle, we could actually do the same thing, but we definitely need to do a threshold. Okay? The thing with doing multiple hides off leash is I don't want the dog to blast through, get rewarded, and come back. I want them to learn to do it in a sequence. And instead of bullying the dog with the leash, I'd rather just set up single hide searches until it's solid, right? So what I'll do for Noelle is I'll be sneaky about it. We'll set a hide at the threshold. You can let her off leash. That way, if she blasts through, there's only the hide at the threshold. When she finds the hide at the threshold, I'll sneak a hide over here. So you reward her, make a big fuss over her, pick up the hide, allow her to continue searching. Okay? Poppy, we're gonna do same two hides for every dog, threshold and corner. Okay? But you two are doing it off leash. Your two are doing it on leash.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Perfect.
So if they blow through, or if Louis blows through, am I allowing him to come to this one first, or am I shortening the leash and not allowing him to get it first?
I'll set the corner hide for each of you after the dog finds the threshold.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. get a dog.
I'm gonna tear it off.
Thank you. Don't lean on it.
I was about to say, I'm not gonna lean on it. I think I will.
Well, I almost knocked over the
You should
top.
put a
You're
date
the one
tag,
who-
just so I know who's watching on Patreon.
We're supported.
They're probably watching on.
Our brains are not in here.
Yeah, well that's what's streaming.
No, our brains are in here, our bodies are here.
There you go.
Sure.
So for those of you on Patreon watching or on YouTube, I just want you to be aware this today was not super planned. Like it's a test. We've been talking about it the last few weeks of class, but this is the first time we're actually attempting it. So hopefully we'll work out the bugs from this experiment. And feel free to give your feedback on how it can be improved. Unfortunately, we can't change the direction the sun rises, so sorry about the glare. But yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Search. Yes, good boy, Lou. Good boy.
Okay, and then you're gonna pick up the hide. No, there's still the second hide.
Oh, it is set. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You're doing it as a two hide search now.
Okay.
Good. So you're supposed
I
to wait
stepped
for
in.
his tail, yeah.
Yes, good boy.
Good. Yeah. So, and this is what happens when you add a second hide, is all of the things, like, it sets off a domino effect. You didn't pick up the hide correctly, so now you stepped in at the wrong time, and you were thinking about the wrong thing, and now the leash is tangled because you didn't recover it. So you need to be super, super solid on one single hide before you move to two hides. Beautiful. Thank you.
Good boy. Good boy.
So now, you see what I mean, though, with Poppy about much easier off leash, right?
Yes.
You don't have to worry about all this stuff.
It's easier. Cause she is searching.
Absolutely. If she wasn't searching, I wouldn't let her do this, right? We'd put cans out here and let her work with cans until she's hunting
Like
in
we've
this
done.
environment, and then we'd start working on patterns.
Well, she always checks the threshold out now and that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Since we did those exercises months ago.
Yeah, well, they don't forget it, you know? When something makes sense to a dog, it makes sense to a dog. They don't need to have you tell them over and over and over again.
So when she comes and stares at me, I just look off into space.
Yeah, just wait. I wouldn't necessarily look off into space. I would look into the room, right? Like you're hunting, and hopefully the dog will catch that from you, you know? Have the same energy, like if there's you found a wild mouse or rat in your house and you're trying to get your dog to kill it. That energy, right? Where you're both hunting.
Except I won't be doing that. I'll be catching.
Don't worry too much. Don't worry too much.
Good girl.
Very nice.
Good. Very good, puppy. Good girl.
Good. And when you're done, you're going to pick it up and let her continue freely. Okay, step into your corner. Beautiful.
Good girl. Very good.
So there's nothing wrong with a dog's desire to check the whole room. All we're trying to change is the order that they check the room in. Okay? Now I want to point out that she ran off there when you got distracted by listening to me talk again. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want you to be aware of...
Keep praising her.
Yeah, well, you want to keep her there until you pick it up. And I just want to point that out because at a trial, in general, people are more distracted than normal. So then you get to a trial and your dog gives you a softer alert than you're used to, and you're wondering why. Well, we've just replicated it. By distracting you, we can create a soft alert where the dog leaves before you're ready.
Good puppy. There's a good girl.
So if you make your goal at a trial to give her your 100% undivided attention, and that when she finds the hide, you're just going to praise her, right? If you did that, I bet you wouldn't see any soft alerts. Sure.
Ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Ready? Search.
Yes, good girl. Good job. Good job. Yes, good girl, kitty.
And notice with Noelle and with this dog,
Yes, good girl.
they blasted off into the room, but then after they did that and it wasn't productive, they immediately went back to their pattern and they worked from where they left off to where the hide currently is. So they have this in them as a kind of an idea, but it's not a solid enough idea for them to do it that way the first time.
Are you all right?
Yeah,
You okay?
I'm just doing it today, aren't I?
Need help? Fortunately, all that's off the frame. They can't see anything happening out here.
Oh, shucks, I was in my preview.
You ready? To give a double lift, that's it. Okay. Search. Search. Yes, good girl. Yes, right.
Good. After you're done paying her, you're going to pick it up, and then you're going to hold it, yeah. Now let her go off and explore.
Go
And-
search.
And when she comes around the corner, you step into your corner. Good. Step into your corner. Good. You.
Yes, good girl.
That was perfect.
That was good.
You moved into your corner a little bit enthusiastically. There's nothing there anymore, so you don't pay her, right?
Done.
Good.
Yeah, good
You have
girl.
a second hide in your pocket. Give it to me when you come back.
I can send it.
There you go. Don't worry about it. Give it to me later. Thank you.
Puppy box.
Okay, what a good girl. You get notice of lots today. Yeah. She's got both. But she has to have the license.
Okay, so any questions from you guys? I'll get Barbara's questions in a second. Oh, it looks like it's reconnecting the stream again. Every time there's a lull in the action.
Well, too some of your dancing then.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think so. But there are 5 people watching.
Oh.
Yeah, well, now there's 4. I think now that I.
Every time it turns off, we lose somebody.
Yeah. Okay, I think it should be back now. Okay. So, question that I got was, how often should we be practicing this? Amongst the things you should be practicing, the things that rank the highest are drive building. Okay? If your dog doesn't have a lot of drive, you should focus primarily on drive building. And that is, I'll close the door so there's less glare. Drive building is how you making sure you praise correctly, multiple treats, when you're trying to get the dog to stick to that odor super well, teaching the dog pairing, right? Going to new environments should be super, super high on the priority list. Training in new environments without worrying about patterns. When drive is a non-issue anymore. Anywhere you take your dog, they search. When that is the case, you can basically focus primarily on pattern searches. And you would do a little bit here and there of problem-solving exercises. So, maybe 1 out of 10 searches is a problem-solving exercise where, maybe you're working on deep inaccessible or multiple hides or distractions or things like that. The rest of the time, I would be focusing on this because this is what's going to make you more successful at a competition. It's not necessarily what the dog finds the most interesting, but it will save the dog a lot of frustration and the handle lots of frustration in a trial. Now, this is also, I should say, for some of the dogs, some of these hides were problem-solving and drive-building hides, right? I mean, some of the dogs worked really hard to find some of those thresholds. So, is it a pattern search? Well, yeah, but it was also in that moment a problem-solving exercise. And you need to be able to be aware of that. Let's say, oh, my plan is to do a pattern exercise, but you set a hide that the dog does not see as the easy hide. Well, then you have to pivot in that moment and say, okay, now this is a problem-solving exercise. I'm going to step back. Even if my plan was to handle a particular way, instead I'm going to maybe unclip you and let you go and work this as a problem exercise. Maybe even pair it, right? Any other questions? Poppy did great.
I was impressed when she hasn't done the thing for 2 months.
I know.
Over 2 months.
I think you need to raise your expectations of her a little bit now. She's been doing better in across the board.
Yeah, she has been. Well, she's more enthusiastic. We're having fun.
Yeah.
This is more fun than what the other stuff we do.
Yeah.
What, did you, I'm sorry,
Go on.
did you say how often we should be doing this? Like, per week?
Well, how you should start with, before we talk about how often you should do pattern searches, we should say, how often are you training?
A couple times a week.
So a couple times a week, because that governs how often you do a pattern search. So if I'm training a couple times a week, how often are you training away from your home?
When we come here.
Oh, for a class, so once a week. Okay. I would try to take some of those trainings and go somewhere. It doesn't have to be far.
Okay.
Just go to the park, go to the community center, go to
The parking lot of the restaurant.
Exactly. Just 5 minutes away and set up hides. That's going to be the most important thing for you to do. Now, if I'm practicing twice a week and I'm going to new environments, and let's say I go to a new environment and my dog is on, then I'm doing patterns. If my dog's not on, if they're distracted at all, if they're not giving me super strong alerts, then I'm not doing patterns. I'm doing drive building. So it's more like do a drive building hide first to see where you are with your dog. Sometimes the drive building hides I'll do with my dogs are blank searches. So I'll go to a new environment and work at blank. How does my dog work? Are they enthusiastic or are they kind of distracted? If they're distracted, then I'm setting paired high drive hides. If they're not distracted, I'm doing patterns.
I had trouble with Noelle, especially today in the second run, telling if she's distracted or if she's hunting, if she's searching.
Yeah.
How
do you know the difference?
Yeah.
You don't, and you throw that idea away. When your dog is searching, you don't have access to what's going on inside their head, and you shouldn't. You should just blindly trust them, and assume that even if you know they're distracted, assume they're working.
Okay.
There are times where you know they're distracting. You know what they look like when they're sniffing pee or when they're sniffing a rat or something like that. Or you can see the distraction, right? And in those cases, even in those cases, let them work it out on their own, okay? Oftentimes, if this happens at a trial, your dog's showing interest in pee. So often I see, here's the pee, here's the odor, right next to it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to move them away? Well, then you move them away from odor. Are you going to correct them? Well, then you corrected them on odor, right? So you're not given a lot of choices in nose work. And in training, what you just need to do is let them work it out on their own, let them make a choice, and the choice will either be to go to odor and then get lots and lots of rewards, or the choice will be to continue to be distracted, and then you can time it, or like let's say it's pee. If the dog pees, you know what to do. You just put them away. And so the dog connects the punishment with being with pottying. You can also put on a timer. So you say, like in training, here's odor, and the dog's sniffing this area. You count in your head: 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. You get to 10 Mississippi and the dog hasn't left that spot, put them in the crate. Okay? But don't move them on. Just tell the dog, you're either going to find odor or you're going to get put away. Those are your two options.
Makes sense.
Anything else before I close out this session? Okay. Very well done, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it on Patreon.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching.